Hey everyone, we're going to talk about why the United States joined World War II today. And to do that, we have to talk about a law that the United States passed called the Lend-Lease Act. But before we do that, let's make sure we're all on the same page. So remember, after totalitarian nations, totalitarian dictators, remember these leaders with total control of their country, countries like Germany with Hitler, and Italy, with Mussolini, and Japan with Hideki Tojo. These countries are going to be taking aggressive actions towards their neighbors, which is going to get World War II started. Germany is going to invade Poland, starting World War II. Italy, with Mussolini as its totalitarian, is going to invade neighboring countries in North Africa. Japan is going to take aggressive actions against China and Korea and other Pacific nations. So a lot of Americans are going to call for the United States to stop these nations, but a lot of them felt burned after World War I when we got involved. So America decides not to get involved in this war, at least not initially. They're going to say, let's stay neutral, not pick sides, and stay isolationist. But we do have a vested interest in keeping the allies of America safe. So countries like Great Britain, France, for instance, we want to help them without actually joining the war. And that's exactly what the Lend-Lease Act is going to do. So it says where Lend-Lease goods are going in January through March 1943. So most of them are going, just looking at this bar graph right here, in terms of millions of dollars spent, to the United Kingdom or Great Britain. And what are we sending? What is the United States sending them? Munitions, ammo, industrial products, supplies, weapons, that sort of thing. Agricultural products like food and such. Most of that is going to the United Kingdom, but it's also going to the Soviet Union, Russia. A lot of it's going to Africa, which the Italians were attacking. China, which the Japanese were attacking, in other countries over there like Australia, New Zealand, India, for instance, where the Japanese might be taking aggressive actions near those countries. So this is a way for the United States to get involved in the war without actually joining it. Help these countries survive and do better against the Axis powers, against Germany, Italy, and Japan, without actually committing American troops or formally joining the war. So this is our first step towards involvement in the war. So things are going to escalate a little bit after Japan takes additional aggressive actions in this area of China called Manchuria up here. So Manchuria is a very resource-heavy region of China, and Japan, being an island, doesn't have access to a lot of natural resources. They don't have a lot of iron, a lot of oil, a lot of coal, for instance. So they have to depend on trade. Well, Japan also wants to industrialize at this time. And to industrialize, you have to have a lot of natural resources, that oil, that iron, that coal, as you see here, and they don't have it. So they're going to decide, let's take it instead from China, specifically the area of China called Manchuria. Manchuria was very resource heavy, as I said before. So while they're there, they're not just going to go steal the resources, they're going to kill hundreds of thousands of Chinese civilians, and some of their soldiers will even rape Chinese girls of all ages. And this event is infamously known as the Rape of Nanking. It was a very brutal event, this whole invasion here. So America, being a trading partner with Japan, specifically with oil, is going to have a lot of problems with what they just did. So the U.S. is going to announce that they're going to put an oil embargo on Japan to punish them. So part of this is going to be through trade sanctions. So a trade sanction is just punishing through trade. So it's really a two-pronged thing. Trade sanctions in general, we're reducing trade, we're making trade more expensive, we're limiting trade, and we're also putting an embargo. And what an embargo is when you stop trading or you're reducing trading. For the most part, it is a straight up stop of trading. So the United States is going to say, Japan, you need oil to industrialize. We will put an embargo on you. We will ban trade with you. There is no more trading of oil with you. So what Japan decides to do instead, feeling that the US is becoming closer and closer to joining World War II, and they see that there's a big Navy buildup on the Hawaiian Islands on an island called Pearl Harbor. On a naval base, called Pearl Harbor. Japan decides to have a preemptive attack against Hawaii to neutralize the naval base of Pearl Harbor and destroy America's Pacific Fleet, their navy in the Pacific Ocean, to get them out of Japan's way. So here's what the attack looks like. The attack is against the island of Oahu, and it is mainly going to Pearl Harbor, as you see here. There are different attacks that happen. Most people think Pearl Harbor is one attack. It's actually two. So the first wave sneaks in with all different types of bombers and fighters that move in and drop bombs, torpedoes, attack American aircraft on the Pearl Harbor base and destroys it. A second wave is also going to come in, but you see that there are also additional targets besides Pearl Harbor. There are other areas of this island of Oahu where the attack takes place. So what ends up happening is that the United States uses this new invention called radar, which is able to detect movement in the air, but before they could respond, the U.S. thought that this whole thing was a drill and they couldn't figure it out fast enough. They assumed it was a drill, but before they got here, before these planes got to Pearl Harbor, it was already too late, and they were able to take down most of the naval ships, the naval fleet that was here. So this was all in response to that oil embargo. So the United States punished Japan for having that invasion of Manchuria. The U.S. put an oil embargo on them to punish them, and then the Japanese, in response, attacked Pearl Harbor to try to neutralize our naval fleet. And here's some primary pictures from the attack, as you see here, from those fighters destroying the U.S. Naval fleet in Pearl Harbor. So 2,400 soldiers are going to be killed, 1,200 will be wounded. A ton of U.S. warplanes that we depend on were destroyed, and 18 warships, those big naval cruisers that you see here, were destroyed. So it was a massive defeat for the United States with this surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. And this is the main reason why the U.S. is going to join World War II. So the Japanese are only going to lose 29 planes, showing that this was a very successful attack for the for the Japanese, So, as you might expect, the United States will quickly declare war on not just Japan, but Germany and Italy. President Roosevelt, he is still the president from the Great Depression. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, on December 7th, 1941, is going to say, this is a day that will live in infamy, a day that is famous for something terrible happening. So now let's see how things change. So here is our allies, Great Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. And then we have Germany, Italy, and Japan on the Axis side. So the U.S. will now join the war, but what's going to happen while pretty close to the United States joining the war is that Germany is going to invade France, and France is going to become under Nazi control, meaning as America joins the fight, France is going to be taken out and will have to be liberated, will have to be freed and saved. And that's where the U.S. and Great Britain are going to work together to help get France back into the fight. I hope this helped you understand why what led up to the U.S. joining World War II and what led up to the attack on Pearl Harbor happening. Thank you guys. Hope you learned something. Thanks.